Varunika. So till then, please bear with me. Yeah.
No problem.
Thank you.
Meenakshi sir.
Yes, we can start.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I am Toastmaster Varunika, and I will be the Sergeant at Arms and the Master of Ceremonies for today's event. I welcome you all to the Area 7 event under Division A, District 20. The clubs included in this area are ICAP Toastmasters Club, C2A Toastmasters Club, AIM Toastmasters Club, and Al Watan Toastmasters Club. Before we start the event, I would like to mention a few ground rules which is to be followed during the event. Please put your mics on mute mode if you're not speaking. Please turn off your video if you're stepping out of the meeting. Any questions can be sent to me through the Zoom chat. Program Quality Director, Distinguished Toastmaster Khalid Abdullah. Club Growth Director, Distinguished Toastmaster Khalid Jalal. Division A Director, Distinguished Toastmaster M.B. Reddy. Event Chairperson, Toastmaster Akash. Other division, area officials, distinguished guests, fellow Toastmasters, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm good evening to you all. It's an honor to be present here among such a beautiful audience. And I am once again Toastmaster Varunika, member of C2A Toastmasters Club, your Master of Ceremonies for today's event. I welcome you all to our Area 7 event on what, why, and how, and insight by champions. Dr. Ralph C. Smedley, the founder of Toastmasters, said, "We learn best in the moments of enjoyment." So let's move on to the event. Are you all ready?
Yes.
Born ready.
That's great. I would like to invite our event chairperson, Toastmaster Akash, a chartered accountant specializing in tax and working with KPMG, past executive member of ICAP Toastmasters Club, current executive committee member of the Bahrain chapter of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, a sports fanatic who loves to explore new places. Please welcome with a warm round of applause, Toastmaster Akash for his address.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Varunika, for a beautiful introduction. I just hope my boss could hear that. Respected Program Quality Director, DTM Khalid Abdullah, Club Growth Director, DTM Khalid Jalal, Division Director, DTM MB Reddy, Area Director, Maya Sharma, our champion speakers for the evening, DTM Aditya Maheswaran, Toastmaster John Andrews, and all my dear Toastmasters and guests joining from all across the globe. Thank you for being here and greetings to you all. Do you know that speaking in front of a crowd is considered as the number one fear in an average human being? Number two is death. Can you seriously believe it? If someone is at a funeral, they're more likely to be in the casket than give a eulogy. The topic for today's meeting revolves around what, why, and how. So let me just throw some light on these questions with respect to public speaking. So what is public speaking? Does public speaking mean giving speeches in big events, seminars? While it's partially true, but this equally means consoling your angry wife, negotiating with a street vendor, convincing your friends for a trip. More importantly, it means how you're able to express your ideas and share your wisdom. What good would a knowledge be if it could not reach the target audience, right? So now coming on to why public speaking is important. We can add 50% value to our careers just by improving our public speaking skills. Not only our careers, our personal life too. I have managed to find my girlfriend just because she was blown away by my icebreaker speech. Take a moment to think of a leader or a great teacher that you have known and ask yourself, were they a great communicator? The answer would be definitely yes. Now, how to improve public speaking? Public speaking is a skill, and if it's a skill, it can be learned. It's like driving and cooking. We get better with practice. So that's what Toastmasters is all about, practicing public speaking. Now, more than ever, where personal human interaction is limited, it's essential to learn the art of public speaking. And more than just being a Toastmaster, we must also strive to participate in annual contests where we can truly assess where we stand, where we lack, and where we are awesome. My journey in Toastmasters absolutely kick-started after participating in these contests, as people started to recognize me, which added to my confidence. And guys, confidence is the key. If you're not confident when asking for a raise, if you're not confident when asking your girlfriend to marry you, or pitching your idea to a venture capitalist, there are more chances that you're likely to be rejected. So if you're joining today, then job half done, because we have champions speakers in our midst who will decode the world champion speech by Verity Price and serve these skills on a platter for us. So I'm still pinching myself to be an event chair for this incredible meeting, and I look forward to hearing everyone today. Over to you, Master of Ceremonies, Toastmaster Veronica.
Thank you, Event Chairperson, Toastmaster Inkash, for your address. Now I would like to invite our Division Director, Distinguished Toastmaster M.B. Reddy. Working in Alba as a Senior Operational Excellence Specialist, Double Masters, specialized in Analytics and Six Sigma, Toastmaster member since 2010, past Area 39 Director, current Krypton Advanced Toastmaster Club President, member of TKS and First Diva, sponsor of Krypton Innovative Toastmasters, and current Division A Director. Please welcome with a warm round of applause Distinguished Toastmaster M.B. Reddy for his address.
Sir, you are on mute.
Thanks. Thank you, Toastmaster Veronica, for introducing me. Today, from morning, we celebrated 50th meeting of C2A. And then there is one more meeting that we are going to see today from Area 7, which is part of, again, C2A, as well as AIMS, and then ICAP and Alvatan Toastmasters. First, I would like to thank the District 20 team here, acknowledge our PQD, DTM Khalid, and then our CCD, DTM Khalid Jalal. Always there is a confusion in names, but not for me, because I always call DTM Khalid as brother, and then DTM Khalid Abdullah is another brother. So there is no confusion to me. And then the all area directors, and then club presidents, and the area 7 and 8 director, and then other officials who are present here today, especially the special guest, DTM Aditya Maheswaran, as well as Toastmasters John Andrews. Thank you very much for joining today. And then you're going to share some knowledge with us. Toastmasters is like a big ocean, actually. There is a lot of wisdom, wealth of wisdom is there. So it is up to us that how much we want to take it from it. So the world champion of public speaking, we can see every year that we go back and then review each champion that how he performed and then what we are going to learn. Every year there is a new lesson actually. So being a statistician for me, I did not find that correlation that I have to do this particular thing, but only one thing that I can observe myself personally is that do it, give it in your own way. That maybe you are going to create your own style. That maybe others need to be followed. But there are those lessons that we will be learning, taking it from each one of them and then learning it. As the contest season is going to come up, and then this is a very good golden opportunity for every one of us to take this and then learn it. As whoever presented is there in this meeting, attending this meeting, they are very fortunate to get the live tips from the champion speakers. But however, we need to share our wisdom so that others can benefit. So we can see that it is recorded as well as on live on YouTube. So the journey is not going to end. It will be continued of sharing of knowledge and wisdom. Back to you, MC.
Thank you, Division Director, Distinguished Toastmaster M.B. Reddy, for your address. Now, I would like to invite our Program Quality Director, Distinguished Toastmaster Khalid Abdullah. He is the District 20 Program Quality Director for the term 2021-2022, immediate past Club Growth Director, President of Active Minds Toastmasters Club, President of Bahrain Debaters Toastmasters Club, immediate past President of Bahrain Advanced Toastmasters Club, member of Babco Toastmasters Club, St. Paul's Toastmasters Club, and Tamakan Advanced Toastmasters Club. His purpose in life is to lead his kids by a good example of a father to be followed, and that's why he is in Toastmasters. Distinguished Toastmaster Meenakshi Sundaram says that if there is an alien attack on Earth and you see one person smiling while fighting with the aliens, that is our Program Quality Director. Please welcome with a warm round of applause our Program Quality Director, Distinguished Toastmaster Khalid Abdullah, for his address.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Veronica, or Master of Ceremonies, and thank you, TM Meenakshi, for such a wonderful addition to the script or the introduction. Thank you so much, brother. Khalid Jalal, DTM, Khalid Jalal, no confusion so far, our Club Growth Director. Division A Director, DTM MB Reddy. All of the area directors around, the chairperson, Ikansh, Toastmaster Ikansh, the champions, Toastmaster John and DTM Aditya, all of the members of District 20 and beyond. Good evening to all of you. What, why, and how? Really, one thing that I really want, before even the event starts, the marketing that this event been doing, amazing job. So I think for that itself, let's give a round of applause for the organizing committee and all of the marketing material they've been doing, the videos. And I was literally surprised by the champion as well, Toastmaster John. He said that this was just organized in 1 week. Wow, amazing job. Amazing job, everyone. Well done for that. Now this takes us to the what. The what is that we are here as the brand or the ambassadors of District 20. When things like this happen, when a small video gets circulated and we get such events marketed in 1 week with 2 champions in no time, that's the what. The what is that we are the proud District 20 Toastmasters, and specifically, of course, Area 7. The why. I always ask myself why. Everyone asks for the same reason. Why? One incident happened to me a couple of months ago when I was attending 2 meetings at the same time. I was having one meeting in this ear, the other meeting on the other ear. And my son came in and he was saying something. Later on, I came to know that he was asking me for dinner. What am I going to have for dinner? I said, Abdullah, not now. I'm busy with 2 meetings. He asked me that same question. Why? Why are you, what are you doing to yourself? Why are you, is that really what Toastmasters is all about? Why are you that engaged with Toastmasters? That's again, the second question that we keep on asking ourselves. But if there is another question that has to answer this would be the how. When I come and see this organizing committee, this beautiful event that we are about to embark on, when I see the faces all around, yes, of course, I'm limited in the faces because many switched off their videos. If you can switch on your video, that would be even better. But when I can see the faces in front of me right now, thank you, DTM Meenakshi. Waiting for more faces. Oh, Toastmaster Gijo, thank you. Thank you, Toastmaster John. More faces. Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for switching on the camera. The how is what inspires everyone around us to our why. We are Toastmasters. We are the leaders of the hour. We can do this. We can make a difference in ourselves and in others. And that's why when someone asks us, why are you in Toastmasters? Let's show them the how. Regardless of all of the difficulties that we have today, literally, we are connected from all over the world and enjoying such great evening and such a great event. Thank you so much, Area 7 ambassadors. Thank you so much, District 20 ambassadors, for having such a beautiful image of ourselves to outsiders. Thank you for answering the what, the why, and the how in just one event. Let's enjoy the event, and over to you, Master Salam.
Thank you, Program Quality Director, Distinguished Toastmaster Khalid Abdullah, for your address. Now, I would like to invite our Club Growth Director, Distinguished Toastmaster Khalid Jalal, Senior Group ICT Manager in a large manufacturing firm based in Bahrain with multiple subsidiaries worldwide, Bahrain Country Advisor and Board Member of International Group of Artificial Intelligence, a global artificial intelligence group, Board Member of Technology and Business Society in Bahrain. In 2019, he chartered the first club. In 2019-2020, he was the Area 3 Director. In 2020-2021, he was the Division C Director. In 2021-2022, he is the Club Growth Director. He is seen as the fastest growing leader in District 20 to reach Club Growth Director in just 3.5 years. He says the secret of his growth is the trust and expectations of District 20 members on and from him, which keeps him motivated to do more for the members. Please welcome with a warm round of applause Distinguished Toastmaster Khalid Jalal for his address.
Thank you very much for MC Toastmaster Veronica for reading out my biodata. If anyone is having a job opening, you read my biodata, please contact me on 39892218. You can send me WhatsApp also on that number. Just joking. Thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you very much and for the honor and inviting me to this special meeting, what, why, and how. I will not go and say what and why. I leave it to the right people to talk about it. I just catch one sentence from our division director. He said, Toastmasters is an ocean. Before I go further, let me recognize the presence of our program quality director, Distinguished Toastmaster Khalid Abdullah, our division A director, DTM Verity, all the other dignitaries in this room. We have guests from all around the world, even from Kuwait. Very good evening to you all. Toastmasters is an ocean. I immediately jumped to the dashboard and I looked at the ocean of Division A, and this is what I found. Division A's ocean consists of corporate clubs, debate club, C2A, I just met in the morning as ladies club, Arabic clubs, Filipino clubs, Finance Professionals Club, which is the ICAP, and the list is on. I will say Division A itself is a mini Toastmaster in the form of a mini ocean. So congratulations to you all being part of that ocean and enriching everyone else in this Toastmaster journey in District 20. What I particularly learned from Division A is the diversity of what we have, the core values of Toastmaster International. I found the way Division A works is basically following and practicing the core values. With a variety of professionals, type of clubs, and working together is a great teamwork, which Division A shows us as an example. What we are going to see today is another example of a teamwork. And I think we cannot be successful without a team. As a club, as individual, as area, as division, as a district, we all need to work as a team. Today, you are going to showcase the great teamwork. I'm sure we all learn from various the speeches and examples, but with that, we also learn how the leadership is put together the form of small events, which becomes one of the large event which we are going to experience today. I wish you all the best and looking forward to the rest of the meeting. Thank you, and back to your Master of Ceremonies.
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Khalid Jalal, for your address. Now, I would like to thank our Area 7 Director, Toastmaster Maya Sharma, for her support for this event, though she could not be present because of personal reasons. Now, let's see the 2021 World Champion of Public Speaking, the winning speech by Toastmaster Verity Price.
Varunika, if it doesn't play, you have to do that for us in the next 2 minutes.
Nice one. Our Zoom moderator may be working background. Yeah.
Bharat, you want help?
Bharat, first you play, then share. Now stop the share. First you play and then share.
Are you able to not hear the video, or should I share again?
Yeah, we are not able. First you play the video and then share it.
Okay.
Because it's only showing the file names.
Bharat, I can do it.
Okay. Fine.
You not see now?
Yes, please play it.
Sound? Is it audible?
Can you play
Yes,
little?
yes, it was audible.
Yes.
Contestant number 4, Verity Price. A great read. A great read, Verity Price.
When I was a little girl, I used to love snuggling on my dad's lap while he read me fairy tales. Not surprisingly, I grew up wanting the fairy tale. To be happily married with beautiful kids, a gorgeous home, and a great career by 30. I never dreamed I would turn 40, unmarried, no children, and living in my sister and brother-in-law's spare room. For my ego, this was a scary tale. So I hid in the spare room, eating ice cream and binge watching Netflix. Contest chair, have you ever noticed that at your worst, you always run into someone at their best? I had dragged myself to the shops just to get more ice cream, thinking no one I know is going to be there. But there she was, that friend. You know the one. Their life is perfect, and they tell you. Here I am, hand on fridge, stuck, having to hear how happily ever after she has ended up. Are you married with kids and your own business? And you bought a house. Me? Great. I wanted to die. I was a mess. My life was a mess. The spare room was a mess. But this was the mess where I found the last letter my dad ever wrote me. Seeing his familiar handwriting just flooded me with grief. Verity, your life is a book. And if you're not enjoying the read, write a different story. And then watch for a miracle, because I'm watching too. I shouted miracles, Dad, and how? How do I write a different story about this? To prove my point, I went to Facebook. And you guessed it, there were no stories of miserable 40-year-olds living in spare rooms. But the letter just lay there. It was like it was looking at me, almost whispering, write a different story. If anyone could write a different story, it was my dad. He wasn't a glass half full guy. He was a, aren't I lucky I've got a glass guy. When Dad was 60, he lost his job. We lost our home, and we had to live in a camper van. But the story Dad told was, we get to live like we're on holiday. He never complained that he'd gone from a corner office to selling insurance, door to door. Instead, the story he told was, I'm working on my sales skills. And the miracle that happened, Dad was Salesman of the Year, and he bought us a new home. And even in our last phone call, on his way to hospital, do you know what he said to me? Don't worry, V. You know I love breakfast in bed. Shame hit me like a bus. My whole life, Dad had been showing me how to write a different story. So I picked up my pen. I looked at that friend and I thought, 40 is going to be my best chapter. I looked at the spare room and thought, this is my safe place to start over. I looked at my love life, and do you know what I thought? I have got to stop kissing frogs. When I wrote a different story, my life began to change. I went from feeling shameful to feeling grateful. And for the first time, I stopped worrying about where I wasn't. And I started enjoying where I was. And the miracle that happened, within 6 months, I'd moved into a new cottage, much to my sister's relief. Within a year, I'd kissed a prince, much to my relief. At 44, I had a baby boy, much to my doctor's disbelief. This letter catapulted me into discovering that it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what chapter of your life you're in. Something as simple as choosing to write a different story can make difficult circumstances a lot easier to deal with. Now, I think you'll agree with me when I say the last 2 years have been a rough read for us all. But we've also written different stories, ones where neighbors get to serenade each other and businesses get to pivot and innovate. And my all-time favorite was that time when we all waved our wands and bippity, your room turned into an auditorium and mine an international stage. My fellow storytellers, do you know what I've learned? Fairy tales are great to read to my son. Real life is full of detours, delays, things that go wrong. But if your life is a book, then every day you get to decide, is your story being written for you or by you? When my dad reminded me that I was the author of my life changed. So if you're looking for a change, you want a new chapter, or you just fancy a miracle, pick up your pen and write a different story. Trust me, it's going to make for a great read. Contest chair.
Back to you, MC.
Thank you for sharing the speech. Now, let's move on to the panel discussion and the champion speeches. For the panel discussion, I would like to invite distinguished Toastmaster Meenakshi Sundaram, a Toastmaster for 14 years, member of ICAP, CAT and Centennial Toastmasters Club, contested at district level in table topics, humorous and international speech contest, and first runner-up in DTAC 2019 in international speech category, CFO John Maxwell Team Certified Trainer, Coach and Blogger. And we have 2 champion speakers today with us. Firstly, I would like to introduce our champion speaker, distinguished Toastmaster Aditya Maheswaran, a management consultant based in London. He is a sought-after keynote speaker and a consultant in the area of strategy, transformation, and leadership development. He has addressed audiences in over 25 countries. He is passionate about business, leadership, public speaking, and philosophy. His coaching and thought leadership combine latest science with the eternal wisdom of life. He is the first Indian representing India to be a finalist at the World Championship of Public Speaking in 2015 in Las Vegas, where he had a podium finish. He is also a finalist in 2017 Vancouver and a semi-finalist in 2014 KL. Secondly, I would like to introduce our next champion speaker, Toastmaster John Andrews. He joined Toastmasters in 2015. As soon as he was eligible to compete in the international speech contest, he did. In 2017, in his first attempt, he shocked all his critics by advancing to the final round of the World Championship of Public Speaking in Vancouver and went home as a crowd favorite. Since then, he has trained under 1999 World Championship Craig Valentine to sharpen his speaking skills and become a certified world-class speaking coach so he can help good speakers become great. So please welcome with a warm round of applause distinguished Toastmaster Meenakshi Sundaram and our two champion speakers today, distinguished Toastmaster Aditya Maheswaran and Toastmaster John Andrews.
Thank you, Master of Ceremonies, Toastmaster Veronica. Thank you for such a positive energy that you have brought to this particular event. Let's move forward. Let me now welcome Toastmaster John Andrews to give insight into speech writing. Toastmaster John Andrews, screen is yours.
Ever since I was a little boy, I have loved magic. Ooh. Every time I watched magic on TV, I would ask my parents, Mom, Dad, how did they do that? And my parents would say the same thing. John, if you knew the secret, you wouldn't find it as enjoyable. But here's the thing. I was a curious boy and I had to know. So I went to the library. I signed out the books on magic to figure out how they did these. And every time there was a TV special, Secrets of Magic Revealed, I had to watch. And you know what I learned? My parents were wrong. When you know the secrets and you're a student of the craft, your appreciation for the artist goes way, way up because you see everything that the person had to do to make this magic happen. I did some magic earlier when I made a light bulb appear, and the trick behind it is not very difficult. It was hiding in the handkerchief, and I did a bit of a handoff. That's the what, if you will. The why and the how are far more intricate. You see, the handkerchief I chose on purpose. This little cow design, it's whimsical. It gets your attention. It adds to the distraction. Also, it has curves. It has a lot of white to it. So what that means is, if I get things a little bit wrong and the light bulb peeks out, you won't notice it. Not quite as much. Now imagine if I used this handkerchief and I got things a little bit wrong, my trick is exposed. So there are all these little things. Those are the why and the how behind the magic. You saw Verity Price perform some amazing magic on the world stage. And later, you are going to hear some of her secrets, at least the ones that Aditya and I found. We watched that video numerous times. We rewound, we turned up the volume, we pinched and we zoomed to get all those details. And my hope is twofold for you. Number one, I'm hoping that if you learn some of the secrets Verity used, your appreciation for what she did will go way up. And secondly, I'm hoping that if you learn some of these secrets and harness them and use them in your own speeches, maybe one day you too will make magic on the grandest stage of them all. Like Verity did, like Aditya did, like I did. My hope for this event is that you will find our insights not just magical, but enlightening. Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. That was definitely magical and enlightening, actually. Yes. Now I know public speaking is actually a magic, in a way that we can say. Thank you for such a brilliant opening remarks to start this meeting. Let's talk about, as you mentioned, let's talk about Toastmaster Verity's speech. It is an amazing speech, definitely, yes. Now, what we are going to do today is we are going to dissect the speech mainly into three categories, which is content, structure, and delivery. And of course, we'll have an overall element, what really worked and all, that also we'll cover. So we'll start with Toastmaster John giving his input on the overall element, overall speech, what you felt, and what are the pluses and minuses, and what we should look at, what we can learn. So Toastmaster John.
Thank you. Little note for the Zoom master, I will be asking to share my screen in a bit. So little heads up there. What Verity did great overall, I'll tell you 2 things she did very well and 1 thing that I might have advised her to do differently. I am a little reluctant to say things she could have done better because could she really have done it better? She's the best in the world. But maybe if there were somebody who were number 1 and she were number 2, I might have said, you know, these things might have got you into number 1, and think of it as a teachable moment for the rest of you to bring yourselves up to that level. So one of the things she did amazingly well is she told a story. Stories are excellent. They convey information that just saying facts and figures never will, because they make an emotional connection with the crowd. There's a line I use. I say, if you quote me a stat, I might remember it. If you give me your opinion, I might agree with it. But if you tell me a compelling story, I will never forget it. Verity told a compelling story. Dare I say, none of us will ever forget it because it was so good. And we'll get into the why and the how later when we talk about content structure and delivery. If there's one thing I might have advised she do differently, I'm not sure I loved the title so much. A great read? Maybe, I'm not really sure. Perhaps another title could have been, Can Fairy Tales Come True? Because the surprise twist, you would be expecting, yes, fairy tales come true, excellent. But at the end of her speech, she says, no, fairy tales don't come true and forget about living a fairy tale. It's a, can fairy tales come true? No, the answer is no. You need to write your own ending. That's something I might have said a little bit differently. Now, Mr. Zoom Master, if I may.
Yes, you have the access now.
Yeah, let me just work that part. And there goes. So here's what to talk about her overall appearance and just how she did everything, how we looked at her the whole time. First of all, I don't know, but if she told me that this was professionally done, she went to a studio, I would fully believe her because the sound is great, the lighting is amazing. And here are some of the secrets behind that. You'll notice the background is not white. My background is white, I can have that. But Verity is a very fair-skinned lady with even fairer hair. But she is still able to stand out from the background. You can tell where the wall ends and she begins. And to make that even more, she has this very dark blazer on. So her body stands out even more so. And we'll talk about her gestures because she has great facials and full body gestures later. It would be a shame if they blended into the background, but she made sure they didn't. Now, to mix things up a little bit, she's not a black blob. She dressed with this blouse underneath, a little bit of a pattern to mix things up a little bit, a bit whimsical. I like it. And another thing she did really well is jewelry. Now, I am fascinated by jewelry. You may have noticed I'm a man with 3 rings and 4 earrings, so that catches my attention. She kept it simple. She has 1 ring here, and she has her wedding and engagement ring here, which turns out to be a prop later on when she says, I met my prince. The earrings I love. They're simple to give her a little bit of personality, but they're not distracting. They're not, there's a word I use, chandelier-ings. If you've seen those, we Indian people, our ladies love those big earrings that look like they should be hanging on top of our dining table. But they're small, they get a little bit of attention, but they don't sparkle. They're not going to draw your attention away from her facials or her expressions. So they are great. And you'll notice there's 1 piece of jewelry she's not wearing, and she's not wearing a necklace. I'm not sure why she did, but I'll tell you why I think it's a great idea. Number 1, when you wear a necklace, it doesn't always hang beautifully like on a mannequin in a store. It gets moved around and things. And if somebody takes a screenshot like right here, and it's kind of going up and down, you've got motion on the ocean, doesn't always look as good. So she was good to avoid that. Another thing is a necklace can be very big and distracting. Again, if it's sparkly, that can do that. But there's an even better reason. That necklace could possibly snag on her blouse here, or it can rattle around. And there's a very bad reason to have that happening. Her microphone is right here, right by where her necklace would be. So she's not giving anything extra for the mic to pick up except her voice. On the whole, Verity's overall presentation, stupendous. If you can get somebody professional like I'm assuming she did, please do that, especially if you want to compete at that level. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, John, for such a wonderful analysis. It's amazing, actually, how dressing can actually impact your speech. We generally don't worry about it, but now I think a lot of points where we can talk about. By the way, when you talk about earrings, I already got questions from audience asking what is that earring that John is wearing, and where we will be able to get it. Actually, we'll talk about it later. Let me ask DTM Aditya. You want to add to the points on the overall speech as it is?
Sure, Sundar. Thanks for the opportunity, and always great to hear John in his fluent best. Listen, John's made me conscious of the fact that I have no earrings and probably underdressed, overdressed. But Verity's was what we call in the contesting world a near perfect speech. It had all the elements, the usual suspects, and she landed her message well. But what struck me most is an insight that I got many years ago when I watched an interview between Christopher Nolan, who had directed the movie Interstellar. Many of you might have watched Interstellar, and the music director, Hans Zimmer. Now, it seems that Interstellar is a movie where the hero goes into space, into other galaxies, and a lot of things. It seems when Christopher Nolan went to Hans Zimmer and asked him to make the music for this movie, Hans Zimmer asked, "What's the story?" And Christopher Nolan said, "The story is taking the audience from a point A to a point B. Point A is a father promising his daughter that he will be back. And point B at the end of the story is that the father keeping that promise." So Hans Zimmer goes back, does that exceptional music that we now know for Interstellar, comes back to Christopher Nolan, plays it, and Nolan says, "Wow, that's exactly what I was looking for. But Christopher, tell me more about the story. What happens between this point A and point B?" And Christopher Nolan says, "Oh, I forgot to tell you that. After the father makes the promise, he takes a spaceship and goes through a wormhole, goes into another galaxy. And then by the time he comes back, his daughter is over 100 years old and he's still 40. And Hans Zimmer says, "Why didn't you tell me all of that? I would have composed some exceptional music, all the space tunes and all of that, And Christopher Nolan says, "That's exactly why I didn't tell you that." The objective is simplicity of point A to point B. But point B needs to be an elevated point B for the audience taking back something. So everything else, the story, the space, the galaxies, the wormholes, all of that needs to align from point A to point B. If you focus too much on that, it just becomes noise, impulses. If you focus too little on that, the point B is not elevated. So how do you align everything in speech making? That's the humor, the content, the delivery, the structure. But the heart of it is taking your audience from point A to point B. In Verity's speech, she mastered this point A to point B. The point that traverse, the road she wanted you to travel is from living a story that is written for you to living a story that is written by you. And everything else in her speech, the body language, voice, the stories, the humor, the direct speech, the indirect speech, the appearance, the stage, everything was aligned to point A and point B. There was no noise in her speech. Consider our project speeches. There's a lot of noise. Why is this joke in the speech? I don't know. It's a good joke. Why are you moving your hands? I don't know, because I've learned body language. Why are you shouting? I have a good voice. Those are noise, and Verity was able to optimize that noise just to take the audience from point A to point B. And that I felt she was more successful than many other world champions who got that title. A very simple story of from living a life written for you to living a life written by you. We're going to dissect soon what it took for her to go from point A to point B, the mechanics and the tools and the madness that connects those 2 points. But my opening remarks is that she did an incredible job of keeping it simple, clear, and taking you and I to a common point B where our lives can be better. Back to you, Sundar.
Wow. Thank you, TM Aditya, for taking us in a journey from interstellar to Verity's speech. That was brilliant. Yes, at the end of the day, it's all a journey from point A to point B, and how easy we make the journey for ourselves and for the audience. And that was an amazing point. Now let's talk about content. Now, in your opinion, what elements actually worked in her favor? Now, we talk about the same point A to point B. So what really, the destinations that she kept, if I have to put it another way, that really helped her in that speech?
It's a great question, Sundar, because in Toastmasters, content is so important, isn't it? The reason I tell you is this: there are two kinds of storytelling. One is when we take something new and make it familiar for the audience. The other kind of storytelling is when you take something familiar and make it new for the audience. So the first category is often the TED Talks, your corporate presentation, attending a scientific. You take something new and making it familiar to the audience. But in Toastmasters, it's the opposite. You take something familiar that everybody can connect to, but make it new for your audience. So that, to me, the content needs to align to that. Now, specifically what I liked about Verity. To make something familiar new requires truly working with words, and Verity was a master at that. For example, a few examples that you might have noticed. The play between fairy tale and scary tale. Brilliant, isn't it? Something so simple, a little twist to make us go, that connects. For example, at your worst, you often run into someone at their best. From feeling shameful to feeling grateful. My father was not a glass half full guy. He was, ain't I lucky I got a glass kind of guy. Twist in normal cliches produces quite a lot of magic. I moved my home to my sister's relief. I kissed a prince to my relief, and I got a baby at 44 to the doctor's disbelief. So these are not exceptional things. She's not using words that we don't know. It is just that steadfastness to keep refining your speech on and on to get that content that's simple, what I call concise, precise, becomes wise in future. The other thing that really struck me in terms of content is the way she was narrating her content. She had a great mix of direct speech and indirect speech and really knew when to narrate and when to speak to you. For example, she didn't meet her friend when she was having ice cream, and she didn't tell us, my friend was married, she has children, she had a business, I didn't. She was speaking to her, but actually speaking to us. She said, oh, you're married or with kids, own a business, and you bought your own house? That you was referring to a friend who wasn't even introduced to us too much. She didn't really set up a character. Yes, she was speaking to a character. That was exceptional. And then she said, I went to that place and I met that friend. You know that one. And this time she was talking to you, not to the friend. You know that one, meaning all of us have that friend who has accomplished everything in life. That's another wonderful thing. I'll make just a quick one more point and then hand it over to Sundar. I love the way she kept using the punchline, write a different story, to reinforce that continuously. It wasn't just a big reveal at the last minute. She was very open and honest. This is what I'm going to speak about. And she used this, we'll get to the structure, but she kept repeating that punchline again and again. By the end of that speech, whether you attended half of it, especially in the online world, whether you slept through 2 minutes of it, you know what she was trying to say. In an online world, making it too mystical and keeping things to the end may be more to a disadvantage than in an offline world. And lastly, humor. She didn't try to overdo it. She was herself. For example, she said, when you meet people who achieved a lot, their life is perfect and they tell you, right? Very subtle, but we know such people, right? Who on social media, they tell you if their life is successful. And she said, you guessed it. In Facebook, there is no story of a miserable 40-year-old living in a spare room. So to conclude, I think her content was a plethora of best practices at Toastmasters. The only place I would have thought her content could have been elevated, if at all, was in her dad's story. I got the emotion of what she was saying, but it exactly capture what about her dad gave him that attitude, or what were some of the things that she drew out except being inspired by her dad. But that's something which can be argued till time's end. So, but a great content. Back to you, Sundar.
Thank you, Aditya, for such a wonderful analysis. I mean, you are completely threadbare covered various aspects. In fact, I was thinking about the father's part of it, but then generally what happens is that many times people suggest that, no, we want to know more of your dad. And I felt probably she kept that portion just to keep the audience knowing that he's a great man. And I learned from him, instead of going deep and creating emotions. But as I said, there is always a debate on that. But I thank you for the concise, precise, and we become wise. That was an amazing tips actually for someone to write speech. And not just write speech. In fact, for a life lesson, I can say that was a wonderful point. In fact, I have one question to ask in this particular, but I think we'll come back to that towards the end. I'll put that question to you. I will go back to John. You want to add anything more to what Aditya said on the content portion?
Add, build. He's laid an amazing foundation. I'd like to say part of your content is the words you use. And to say Verity is a wordsmith is insufficient. She is a word wizard. And the way she wove the fairy tale terminology, that motif, all the way through her speech, was that thread of continuity that kept it going. We talked about the scary tale. That's quite possibly the humor high point of her joke, at least from a pun perspective. But there were others. She stopped kissing frogs. One of the more subtle ones, when she met her friend who had everything going for her, did you catch that she said, "You're my friend who was living happily ever after"? Just that little bit thrown in there. Another one that's very, very subtle is she said, when she moved out of the spare room, she moved into a cottage, not a townhouse, not a condominium, not a flat, a cottage, because cottage does have a bit of a fairy tale motif to it. We think about Little Red Riding Hood's grandma who lived in a cottage in the woods. And of course, the bippity boppity boo, that brings to mind Cinderella. Now, one of the things with the wording that I may have said, do this a little bit differently. When she brought everybody together, I don't want to give the structure away too much, but when she says, we, pronouns are important. She says, we all waved our magic wands and bippity boppity boo. And then suddenly it became, you transformed your home into an auditorium and I transformed mine into a world-class stage. We had all been unified there. It was we're with you, Verity. And then suddenly there was a division between the speaker and the audience. I would have kept the we motif going, which you still could have had the difference, but without making it obvious. We all waved our wands. We turned our homes into we all turned our homes into auditoriums and world-class stages, the world stage, whatever. Kept the we, and because she had already worked to unify everybody, and then suddenly there was a little bit of disunity. I would have kept the unity going. But another thing she did really well, and this will come up in the most basic of Toastmasters projects, the triplets. Three things. My life was a mess. My career was a mess. The spare room was a mess. And as Aditya pointed out, relief, disbelief. We are trained to think of threes and expect something a little bit funnier on number 3. So she made full use of that. This was a masterclass in word wizardry.
Thank you, John, for that. Again, building on to the points that's been discussed by Aditya. Yes, there are definitely finer points that, as you mentioned, which definitely made a difference in her speech. Now, as both of you talked about structure, let's now move on to the structure. So I would again start with Aditya.
All right, sure.
You can give us a masterclass on structure.
Well, Verity's masterclass, I'm the messenger. Sundar, when I think of Verity's structure, in fact, what strikes me about the speech's structure, I'm sure all of you might have thought about it as well, is actually the very simple cliche structure at Toastmasters. There's nothing too dramatic or innovative. And therein lies the magic, isn't it? It shows that very simple, clear structure works often. Now, we often find in Toastmasters, there's a simple structure called then, how, now, which is how was I then? How did I change? How am I now? Right? You would recognize this in probably every single speech in Toastmasters. Then, how, now. I was then, my life was bad, it wasn't good. These were the issues. It seems insurmountable. Sometimes I was ready to give up. How? My dad came, or the genie came, or my mother came, or some mentor came, showed me something. Then the now. I'm now doing better. So that's a cliche Toastmaster structure. Verity had the same structure. She didn't try to overwork something that she doesn't need to overwork. And I appreciated that about her. But if you go into the specific of the then, now, how, let's look at how the then was. So she used this technique, what I once heard from a Toastmaster in Bangalore, called PSP technique. Make your point, tell a story, make a point. So between then, how, and now, each was a story. Then was the setup about her life. She was living with a sister and nothing was going well. The how was the story about her father. And the now was the story back to her life and offering us the advice. Now, imagine, you might have watched Verity's speech and wondered, how can I give such an amazing speech? At the end of the day, it was just 3 short speeches. How was I then? What was the inspiration? And how am I now? You can take this template. It's not plagiarism. It's your template. Ask yourself, in this topic, what was the then? What was the how? What was the now? But the magic in her then, how, now was that it wasn't just then, now, how. It was make a point, then come to then. Make the point again, then go to how. Then make the point again and go to now. Meaning, she started, the first line in her speech was dad reading a book. She had introduced her dad. She had introduced fairy tale. She had introduced the core of the speech. Then she suspended that relationship with her dad and went to the then. Oh, my life wasn't going well. Got back into writing your own story. Then went into the how, the dad's ascent to his elevation. Then she got back to the point. Then she went to the now. So that kind of PSP, the point, story, point, really, really works effectively. What I want to end with is something John started with, which I want to build on. The transition of her words from me to us to you through the speech was brilliant. The first 4 minutes in her speech was all about me, my life, my dad, my friend, my jealousy, my elevation. Suddenly, she brought in the pandemic and made it us. And there was a 30 seconds in the speech, it was about us, all of us, the collective. And the last minute or so in the speech suddenly became you. What would you want to do? You have a choice to make. She was directive to us saying, do you want to live a life for a story written for you or by you? And that's a very key point in structure as well. When do you navigate from me to us to you? It starts off as your story. It never ends as your story. It's a story for every person watching the speech. So these are some of the things that I found powerful in her structures in there.
Thank you. That was a fantastic point. Me, us, and you. And then again, it's always a combination of when you're going to transition. I think that's a great point. And again, yes, Verity has done a brilliant job in terms of keeping it balanced in many ways. Thank you for highlighting all those positives. Let me ask John, in terms of structure, what do you want to build up from what Aditya has mentioned?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now, Aditya talked about the entire speech, all 7 minutes-ish of it. I'd like to zoom in on the story itself. Aditya has done a very good job talking about the story and the application, the story and the point. Let me talk about the story itself. And spoiler alert, I have no growth point here because it's stupendous. There are 5 C's of storytelling, and I don't have time to get into all of them now. I actually do a 1-hour workshop on that, so I got to give you just the frozen concentrated orange juice version of it. But two of the C's are characters and conflict. And like Aditya says, first off, she introduces the two main characters in the story, Verity and her dad. They are there right away. And the very next thing she does after talking about sitting on her dad's lap is introduce the conflict. Something's gone wrong in her life. This lady wanted this by 30, and now she's 40, and life is just not working out for her. So right away, something is wrong. There is a struggle, and she's got to deal with that struggle. So it takes the storytelling arc beautifully. There's a conflict. The conflict gets a little bit worse when she meets her friend at the shop. She's feeling a little bit worse. Then she feels a little bit sadder when she gets her dad's letter. Oh, Dad, how can I write my, and don't want to get into delivery yet, but Dad, how can I write a new ending? Oh, you feel that with her. Then suddenly what happens? She learns the lesson, and then things get better. She does the work, she gets the reward. And then to repeat what Aditya said, that's when it becomes, and you can too. The conflict goes up, the conflict gets resolved, there's a reward. Here's what you can learn from it. And I have nothing to add aside from that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, John. That was a good way of pointing how the conflict actually builds and then the story ends. That's a point that we can pick up when we write our speeches, how to take that conflict up during your speech. That's a fantastic point. No, we have covered the content and structure. Now comes the major part of every speech. In fact, mostly the judges are influenced by this part, even though the judging sheet has got different elements for it. But delivery is something that really decides. That's the one that actually takes a speech to a different level, isn't it? So let me ask John. I'll start with John this time. What do you think Verity has done differently or amazingly?
Yes. Before I get to that, I want to build on what you said, Mr. Chair, about how important delivery is. We say content is king, but delivery is queen. And I don't mean that in a royalty sense. Think about that in the sense of a chess match. Yes, your king is content, because without your content, the game is over. But the queen is delivery. That's the most powerful piece. It's the one that can go wherever she wants, basically. And if your queen dies in a chess match, then your content is vulnerable. So always make sure you have your queen, that delivery. So now as for what Verity did, maybe have you realized that every single time you speak, you are given a prop? The stage itself is a prop. Are you using the stage as a prop? And here's how she did it. The left side of the stage is the bad side. That's the negative side. The right side of the stage is the good side. That's the positive side. Sometimes in stage acting, we'll actually call this the strong side. But this is bad, this is good. There's a reason why Verity was over here binge watching Netflix in the spare room, because that's the bad side. Did you notice when she met her friend living happily ever after, she was over on the good side of the stage? That sets up the contrast. And that's not the only time she does it. Dad went from a corner office to selling insurance door to door. He lost his job, and he lost his job. That's the great part. Lost his job, we lost our house, and we wound up living in a van. Because we are speaking in English you read from left to right. We consider this the direction of progression. So if you're going to do something in a timeline, tell a story from left to right, if you can. It's a little difficult in this online world, but she made this side the bad side, she made that side the good side. So that's one thing you can do really well. Mr. Zoom Master, if I may. Oh, I almost left the meeting there. So that's her opening. So what she did stupendously are her facials and her full body gestures. Look at this. This is 5 seconds in. We know how old Verity is. We're not supposed to talk about how old ladies are, but she brought it up, so it's fair game. we know she's in her 40s, but look at this. Look at how she communicates little Verity. Like, we can see in our minds 4-year-old Verity sitting on her dad's lap. Very expressive facials, very big gestures all the way through. Now, here's something I might have suggested a little bit differently. One of the things I focus on and I fixate on are props. This is the letter that she says her dad wrote. I heard in another interview that this is actually a letter her dad wrote, not that letter, but a letter. This letter looks like she pulled it off the printer this morning. It's pristine. There are ways to make a piece of paper look old. See this one? This was on a pad on Wednesday. I made it look old. Ways you can make a piece of paper look old: if you get a used tea bag, like as long as it's dark tea, run a used tea bag over your piece of paper to kind of yellow it. Now, that didn't work for me all that well because my wife, I'm a coffee drinker. My wife is drinking white tea nowadays. Didn't work all that well. So what I did is I got some ground cinnamon, sprinkled that all over it to darken this. So not only does it look old, it smells delicious. I need to put that away. Oh, before I put it away, using that water, that wet tea bag on this, look how it wrinkled it up as well. So it looks old. It even took some of the corner out. So that's one of the things she could have done a little bit differently with her props. If you, am I done? Am I still sharing? Okay, so excuse me. Yeah, so great facials all the way through. And one of the things she also did really well is the eye contact. She kept that eye contact, but one of the things she did is she broke it intentionally, right? When she's talking to her dad or she's talking to her friend, she lets us see that. She's not telling us, and I wonder, Dad, how are you going to do this? It suddenly became like we're watching a movie. Dad, how am I going to do this? And she talked to her friend. Oh, nice. You're married. Your business is going well. And then she talked to the audience. She gave us the reaction. Oh, it's going so well, huh? It's going well, huh? I wanted to die. She gave us that reaction. And that's another thing possibly could have done a little bit more. When she got the call from her dad, she could have let that hang out there a little bit. She said, V, I love breakfast in bed. And then get the reaction, love breakfast in bed. That truth hit me like a bus. It was a very heavy scene. I'm not saying she did it badly. I'm saying she could have milked it for more that she was, more than it was worth. More than she did, I should say. The letter as well, I want to go back to that. She could have made the letter a character by kind of personifying the letter, because this goes back to wording. The wording she used was, but the letter just sat there like it was looking at me, almost whispering, write another story. If she just used the words, the letter sat there looking at me, whispering, and then do a whisper shout, write another story. Now the letter is quite literally telling her to do something that her dad didn't. So lots we can talk about with delivery, but mostly it was excellent. And there's a reason that we like this speech so much. In a lot of her facials, in a lot of her gestures, she became very likable and very relatable. So she made it possible for us to see ourselves in a not so great scary tale because we felt what she was doing. She didn't tell us, she showed us. So be as expressive as you can with your delivery, because delivery is queen.
Thank you, John. I really love that particular idea you gave about making the paper look old. That was, I'll keep that point. And again, the final point, the point that you made, that she, whatever she did, she made us like her. I think that's a fantastic point, actually, because at the end of the day, we are going to vote for a person who we like, or we are going to root for a person who we are going to like, obviously. So making someone like you online is a great challenge, and she definitely is a master in that way. Thank you very much, John. Let me ask Aditya to add to this delivery?
Sure, Sundar. I would love to quickly move to the Q&A as well, but just to build on what John said. John helped me bring out a 2,000-year-old document from my wardrobe right now. Thank you, John. A little tea did the trick. But that was a wonderful tip. I've never heard that before. Listen, for me, of all the points that we've been discussing, delivery is so much. Delivery is one thing where you got to find your own style. It's to each person their own, apart from certain best practices that John has really well articulated. The reason is this. Many years ago, when I was living in India, there was this lady, not too dissimilar to Verity's age, but an Indian lady, who had one of the finest speeches that I've ever heard. Her own son's epilepsy and how she gave up everything for her son. Each time I listened to that speech, there were tears in my eye. So she won the division. Now district was a big stage, so she had to elevate her speaking skills to the district stage. So she got our Toastmaster mentors, the big guys of the world, to teach her delivery. They said, you know what, you got to be more energetic, run on 2 different sides, divide the stage into 3 different parts, do this. So suddenly I saw her at the district, and I was seeing a performance. I didn't feel her son's epilepsy or the sacrifices she gave and stuff, because the division, she did have good delivery, but it was authentic to herself. In the district, she was showing us something, and I was left wondering, what the hell is she trying to say here? She had killed her speech with delivery. But that same delivery which killed her speech may work well for another 25-year-old guy on stage who's probably all energy. So there is no good or bad delivery, is whether it's authentic to who you are and the point A to point B that you're trying to take the audience to. Because if you add delivery that's not authentic to your speech, you're creating a lot of noise. I'm able to see the notes. I'm not able to listen to the music. Think of your favorite song. What if you can hear only the guitar, or you can hear the drums play a little too heavy? You're hearing notes of music, but the music gets lost in the process of hearing notes. So I would say delivery, please, please, please take a lot of caution to not just follow a template, but really ask yourself, who am I? How do people see me? Like, I know Sundar. I know him for 6 years now. I have a picture of Sundar in my head of who he is, what are his values. I like to see an amplification of those values on Sundar on stage. I don't want Sundar running around. I know that's not him. He's authentic, he's good with content, and he's subtle in his body language. Now, if Sundar tries to be someone else, I'm going to say, Sundar, shut that off. That's Sundar. But I know John. If John just stands at one place and gives a very sober speech, that shuts me off, because I know John's just filled with energy. So you got to ask yourself, what's authentic to you? How am I already perceived by people around me? And am I amplifying my strengths to the highest level, or trying to create a new me that's not authentic? And I think Verity did a wonderful job to amplify who she is, rather than try to create a different her. Sundar.
Thank you. That was a fabulous point. Authentic to who you are, to this, what speech you are talking about. In fact, I just thought, maybe we all like the girl next door image, and probably Verity came through as someone who's as simple as who we want to be, something like that. So probably we like more because of that also, probably. Well, I think that's...
And I loved her South African accent. It was a very, very beautiful South African accent, which we haven't heard on the world stage for a long time, actually. Yeah.
Good. In fact, we have come to the Q&A session. I have one question to ask. In fact, when both of you talked about the power of 3. I took the points when I listened to her speech, and I took that belief, relief, and disbelief. My question is, how much you think, and also considering Verity's the way she presented herself, and she is told that she got Lance Miller to coach her. How much of the mentor's influence you see in her speech?
John?
How much do I see Lance Miller in her speech? I'm not sure. I've only seen Lance Miller's World championship speech. But one of the things that Lance Miller did is he had that repetition, right? That I'm a validator, cha-chink, cha-chink. And what she did is not necessarily have a catchphrase, but she did have something she repeated all the way through. It was that fairy tale motif, the scary tale, the cottage, the bippity boppity boo, the happily ever after. So if you can get something, that catchphrase, cha-chink, amazing, because it's not a real word. So it's something that is going to get your attention. But what she did is she took that, but in a slightly different direction, gave you something over and over that is going to stick with you. So that is a little bit of Lance Miller that I did see in Verity.
What about you, Aditya?
Well, I would agree with John. Even if she had taken a lot of tips from Lance Miller, I think she made it her own. So at no point I felt she was being someone else than who she was. And in fact, Sundar, that was very pleasantly validated by an interview of hers that I saw after the speech, where she was sitting down and conversing like how we are conversing now, and she was still the same. She had the same expression. She had a big smile at times. She was, jubilant and otherwise sober. So she was, what I really like about speakers, and sometimes we Toastmasters miss that, and probably that's why we unfortunately have divided speeches as Toastmaster speeches and real world speeches, right? The reason being, if you're the same personality on stage and off stage, you bring that retrospective inspiration as well. The one inspiration is when you hear her speech in that 7 minutes, but inspiration grows the weeks and months following the World Championship, depending on when Dhananjay won. That was a great speech. But as Dhananjay toured the world, people now saw that, wow, he is the same awesome guy that he was for that 7 minutes. And his reputation grows for all of us. So Verity's reputation, I'm sure, will grow because what the little I saw post-championship, she was the same person as on stage. And I think that's so important. And therefore I say that Lance Miller's influence was good, but not overriding who she was.
Perfect. I mean, you have to remain who you are, though you get influenced by others. That was a fantastic point. I think we are slightly towards the end. I'm not seeing much of questions from the audience. I have one question for both of you. So I'll start with Aditya. There is one. Is there any questions, Kanch?
I have a few questions. Yeah.
Yeah,
so you can go first. You can go first.
Okay. No, you go first because my question will be the closing question. So
sure.
Let's keep for maybe 2 or 3 questions. Probably we can.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, I'll restrict to that. Thank you, Aditya and John. So the first question is, should we connect every speech with our life for winning the contest? And I mean, just to add to that, sometimes the story reflected by the speaker could be, fake and still they win. So can you just explain on this area?
Yeah. As John started his thing, stories are powerful. And the only combination where the speaker is necessary and that story is also new is the fact that it's a personal story. Otherwise, I can Google and find out what Abraham Lincoln did, how many times he failed before he became the president, Martin Luther King. The only thing that's refreshing is stories. But all rules are meant to be broken. Come up with a speech that's powerful enough and you win the title even without a personal story. So the point is, what's the path of least resistance for you to create impact? If the path of least resistance is a story that offers a perspective from your life, then why not go with that? You may choose to do something else. But to me, at the moment where we are in the World Championship, that's a path of a lot of resistance. You need to be exceptionally good with something else to come up with a non-story format to win the World Championship. So I would never say no to anything, but I would just say it's a path of least resistance in World Championship.
Thank you. The next question is...
We could probably alternate, Ekansh, and John can take the next question and I can take the third question.
Perfect. So John, a question for you is death, disease, and disaster is something that should be actively avoided for a contest speech?
Did you give me this one on purpose?
Yeah, it was the third one, so I moved it up.
Is death, disease, and disaster a topic that should be avoided? If you don't know me, I'm going to inform you of something. I'm a licensed funeral director, and the two speeches I took to Vancouver were both funeral speeches. My semifinal speech, which is probably my best work, is about something different you can do about funerals. So I was bringing up, that was more TED Talkish, as Aditya would say. It was taking the new and bringing it to the people. And my final round speech, the working title of it was Laughing at Death. And then about a couple of minutes before I gave it at the club level the very first time, I changed it. But it's just now it's my life as an underground commodities dealer. But can you do it? If you're brave enough and you have the authority. And the thing is, as an undertaker, I did have the authority to speak on death and speak on the humor of death and how death can be funny and the need for humor when you do what I was doing at that time. So do you have to avoid difficult things? I don't think you do, but you have to be, to borrow Aditya's word, authentic. You have to be authentic and you have to speak with authority. Did you really live through that earthquake? If you want to talk about disaster, did you really? Okay, now you're speaking with authority. Did you really have epilepsy? Now you're speaking with authority. Or your son really have epilepsy? Now you're speaking with authority. Be authentic, speak with authority, and then no topic. I really have to be careful what I say on that one. Then you can speak on just about any topic. Do it properly.
Perfect. Thank you so much, John. Do we have time to take another question, Meenakshi?
Gentlemen, I think we have already over time.
Yeah, I think we can go for one more question. It's fine because we have these two speakers. So let's use one more question. Please go ahead.
All right. So the next question for Aditya is, so how do you come up? I mean, I think we have already discussed this, how do you come up with a subject to write and what's your trigger point? But I think I'll take the different question, which is a simple one. Does the title of the speech matter to judges? As John pointed out that I could have gone with a different title rather than a great read. So do you have the same opinion that, that she could have gone with a different title and it would have been more impactful or something?
It's a good question, actually. Sorry.
I request everyone to be on mute.
All right. Yeah. So the judges often, right from a club level, but especially at the World Championship stage, have seen whether or not they've contested themselves. They've witnessed and evaluated and judged hundreds of speeches. So most often, experience brings with it a bad habit of prejudging a speech. This is what he's going to say. The moment you say something like, make your life bounce back from failures, that's the title of the speech, they're just expecting the content to validate a predetermined story they know you're going to say. So there is a merit in adding an element of ambiguity or suspense on the title. Like in 2015, for my first runner-up speech, the title was Scratch. Like, what the hell is that? It also provokes a little laughter. People think of Ichgard in India, Scratch.
Yeah.
And people make fun of that. And what is Scratch? It could go any way. It could go either way. But by the middle of the speech, the suspense dissolves because I've given a definition of that. Like, so in her speech, she said, great read. She didn't fully reveal what that means exactly, but it revealed. Now, but is a great read some provocative or raises my eyes? No, it's a pretty flat title, but what she did well was it didn't reveal anything. It made us lean forward and say, even the judges who've been there for 10,000 years judging, even they wouldn't have been able to guess what the speech is about. So I think it's a very important headline, title. And if you use it to your advantage, it can work well. But does that determine victory and defeat? I don't think so.
Perfect. Thank you. John, you want to add something? You're on mute, actually.
Yeah, very quickly. Your title is part of your speech. So don't just come up with something, anything that's going to fill time. Make the audience want to hear your speech by giving it a good title.
Perfect. So it's like the grandfather of the speech. Great.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
So
Back
one,
to Meenakshi.
Thanks, Sekans. Thanks. We are almost there at the end of the session. So I would like to ask one question to both of you. So I'll start with Aditya. Just give about your personal experience. You've been contesting at the highest level. So for the members here who are aspiring to be contestants at some point of time in their life in the World Championship. So I'll start with Aditya, your experience.
I've been blessed to have paid the renewal fee like everybody else, and yet had the chance to represent three World Championship fees. Sometimes I pinch myself. I pay the same $45, but I've kind of had an opportunity to do more. No, just joking there. My experience has been very interesting for me, because initially it was about proving, then it kind of changed to improving. In 2014 in Kuala Lumpur, I went there to prove a point that I'm a good speaker. I was a semi-finalist. Then I was humbled by the amount I learned. A lot of my mentors said, Aditya, you probably don't contest again. What if you lose at the club level? People are going to call you a one-time wonder, just milk the semi-finalist position for a few years. Then I told myself, I think the proving bit is over. If I really need to improve on the feedback that I received last year, the only way to improve is to come back next year. So I came back in 2015 and got the second prize in the world. And that showed me that I'd improved. But then now it was a trick, Sundar, because the only place to improve after second place is first place. And so more people told me, you don't want to be a second place and then lose at an area level or so. But I came back in 2017. I went back. That was the year with John in Vancouver. This time I didn't place. But to me personally, that was a better performance than even my 2015 speech. So had I proven? Not really. Had I improved? Absolutely. So that keeps me going. Please don't outsource your energy to the outcome and consequences. Take charge of it in terms of how am I improving in the process. Then it becomes a beautiful journey. No politics, no judge blaming, just your own improvement in contests.
That was a wonderful point, Aditya. Thanks a lot. Let me ask John, what's your experience? Quick and
My experience with competing has been amazing. 2017 Vancouver was the first time I competed at the international level. I got to compete in table topics and humorous before that. That's the first year, and I made it all the way, and I got to meet great people like Aditya there. And when you compete, it forces you to improve, because most of our pathway speeches, you do it once, maybe twice, and then you're done with it. You do a competition speech, you've got to run that 60, 70, 80 times. And back in the old days, you had to visit multiple clubs around your city, and you got to meet many people. It's an excuse to get out there and meet multiple people and learn from a lot of them, make connections. So if anybody is thinking, should I compete? My question to you would be, why are you not competing? And that is not a gotcha question. It's what needs to happen before you feel you are ready to compete. Tell me, what do you have to do? You have to learn to stop saying ums and ahs. You've got to learn how to tell a story properly. Tell me what you need to do. Okay, now what are you going to do to fix all those? Then even if you don't compete, at least you have become better. You are capable of competing. So I would say compete, because it will make you better. And who knows, you might win.
Yeah, thanks a lot. That's a good one. Compete, because you might win. But at the end of the day, whether you win or not, you're definitely a winner in terms of learning. I think we're at the end of the thing. I would request one small question to John. What is that you are doing nowadays?
Sure thing. If I can get the screen one last time. And I do promise this is the last time.
You already have the access.
Got it. Okay. So this is the part where I sell stuff and get you to buy stuff, right? Well, that's what I was going to do. And then Aditya talked me out of it. He said, John, that's a North American thing. When you bring that east, it doesn't really play all that well. We don't like being talked to for a little while and then saying, now buy my junk. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I am not going to sell anything. I'm going to give stuff away. This is not a sales pitch. This is giveaways. I'm not selling, I'm giving. You're not buying, you're getting. It's a very important distinction. And here it is. Here's what you have to do to go and get it. Visit my website, lastrites.com. Yes, that is a funeral pun, but there's a W in there and there is a dash. Now, if you've got a phone with a QR reader, by all means, use the code on the right side there. When you get to my website, here's what you will get. Oops. You'll get access to all of my social media. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn. I do a lot of things. I give speaking tips. I share articles about public speaking. I share inspirational quotes. I even tell jokes. So if that's your thing, you'll find something for yourself on social media. There is also my YouTube channel where I have some of my competition speeches, including that laughing at death speech I talked about earlier, and some other stuff. I also do a series called Speechcraft Fundamentals, short videos, but it's a 12-unit series on the basics of writing a speech from the very beginning, how to choose your title, even how to structure a speech, how to make a point, how to write an opening, how to make a closing. 1 hour of Speechcraft instruction you will get for free. Finally, I shouldn't say finally, if you would like to be, we'll say 2, 3, 5 times the speaker you are now, I have a web series, 13 pointers to pump up your presentations. That's a web series you can get for free. It has a very corporate bent to it. So if you're the person who has to talk to your executive to convince them to give you more funding for your project, or you got to win a big client, that is on my site. It should be on a ribbon right across the bottom as soon as you get there. If it's not, enter lastrites.com/13. But wait, there's more. Right now, you're going to get Verity's most important secret, and it was touched on earlier, and it's not much of a secret. She had a coach. She had a great coach. If you want a coach, I am a certified world-class speaking coach, and I already charge less than you think because I'm Canadian, and I charge in Canadian dollars, not American dollars. That's already 20% less than you're probably assuming. I give everybody an incentive to buy in bulk. You get a bit of a discount there. Today only, here's what you will get. I am quadrupling that incentive. I got 4 fingers up just in case you think you heard me incorrectly. 4 times the incentive to take on what I'm doing, but I'm giving it only to people who made this event a great one. So you have to be hearing me live now. If you're hearing me on a recording, you don't get this deal. Here's what you need to do. You need to send me an email, john@lastrites.com. Take a note. Maybe somebody takes a screenshot of this, you might need it. The subject has to be District 20 deal, because this is a District 20 event. You don't have to be from District 20. If you're watching me somewhere between Los Angeles and Tokyo, anybody in the world can get this, but you've got to send that email by midnight tonight, Arabian Standard Time. That's, by my count, that's in about 3.5 hours. So that's how I know I'm rewarding people who were in on this event. So again, all this stuff, that stuff, it's already free. And I can't give you a discount on free. That's for the whole world. But for the people who invited me here and made this event amazing, thank you all for having me. This is for you. This is what you get. And with that, I bid you adieu from across the pond.
Gentlemen, just a sweet reminder of our time. It's already 8:40.
Yeah, sure. We'll close it now. Thank you. Thank you, John. We have a short message from Verity. I want to play that before we conclude because she has been such a nice person who has agreed to give a message for our event. So I want to play that message. And then we will close the short.
Hello, everyone. I hope this finds you really well and looking forward to what I am sure is going to be an insightful and an informative evening with John and Aditya. I'll be very interested to see what they have to say about my speech, but I just wanted to say a quick hello and wish you an amazing event. I'm sure the learning and growth that will come out of this will be incredible, because the learning and growth that has come out of being part of the International Speech Contest for me has been extraordinary. I had no idea when I entered the club contest at the beginning of this year that I would go on the full journey and end up with the pinnacle of being crowned the world champion of public speaking. I'm still pinching myself when I hear the title, but I'm so excited that I have an opportunity now to go on a journey of sharing with Toastmasters everything I learned along the way. But tonight is all about you getting insights into my speech from two fantastic evaluators. And what I want to leave you with is just to know that when you enter a contest, and if you're taking it seriously and going to see how far you can take it, do not underestimate how much time you will put into a speech. My semi-final speech had over 30 versions written, and I worked on it tirelessly for 6 months. I would say between that and my final speech, which I worked on tirelessly for 3 months, I was spending an average of 2 to 3 hours a day writing, rewriting, rehearsing, filming, reviewing, doing it at clubs, trying to work with the feedback I was getting. So it was not a journey that I went on by myself. Both speeches were informed by the feedback that I received from fellow Toastmasters, and that's what allowed me to craft a speech that ultimately went on to win. And I'm still taking it in and also eternally grateful for the people that helped me to get there. Maybe that's been my biggest lesson coming out of this contest journey is alone I can't, together we can. You will only ever write a winning speech if you involve other people and if you apply that feedback to your speech and you go and deliver it again and get more feedback and apply it again and keep trying, keep learning, keep showing up. So I hope that you enjoy looking at my speech and learning from the feedback that's going to be given, and that you can apply those learnings to your own speech journey, and that one day you might be showing up as a champion yourself. Have an amazing event, and I hope to see you all soon.
That was Verity. Thanks a lot, Toastmasters Verity, for being such a nice lady. So we want to conclude the event with a closing remark from Aditya and then a word of thanks. So Aditya.
Sure. Thank you, Sundar. And thanks, John. Always a pleasure sharing stage. I often ask myself at times when I'm alone, what we've seen today is a deconstruction. And the question I ask myself is, if I deconstruct Verity and reconstruct it in my speech, will I become Verity? I mean, I can do that with a watch or a drug. Pharmaceutical companies do that. You know, when things go off patent, a generic company deconstructs, reverse engineers, and reconstruct, that becomes the same product. But can we do that with Roger Federer? If we deconstruct everything Federer does and reconstruct it in you in terms of tips and techniques, can you still have that fluent backhand that Federer does? And to me, the answer is no. Because deconstruction and reconstruction has a flaw, which is that you're not Verity, you are you. So that X factor is you, not just the tools that you've deconstructed. And to me, I want to conclude by saying, so everything that John and I have said today, and more things that you may read and all of that, these tools and mechanics and tips and tricks are all like scaffolding in a building, you know. To construct a house, you need the dirty wooden scaffolding. But once you have the house there, scaffolding itself makes it ugly. You need to take the scaffolding out, and then the house is beautiful. It's like a pole vault, you know. To get that elevation in pole vaulting, you need a long pole. but you cannot make the jump with the pole in your hand. You need to drop the pole at the right time to make that jump. You cannot jump with the pole. You cannot jump without the pole. The trick is, when do you drop the pole? So you take all of this wisdom, but the trick is, when does it all synchronize between your point A and point B? Otherwise, you're jumping with the pole, not knowing what to do with that. All the best to all of you. Like Verity said, I sincerely hope each of you find your dreams fulfilled at Toastmasters and take it outside of Toastmasters to make the world a better place. Good luck, and back to you, Sundar.
Thank you, Aditya. With that, I hand over the control back to Master of Ceremonies. Thanks a lot, John and Aditya, for such a wonderful session. Over to you, Toastmaster Veronica.
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Aditya Maheswaran and Toastmaster John Andrews, for your wonderful insights. Now for the vote of thanks, ladies and gentlemen, attitude of gratitude is an important part of life. So now to deliver the vote of thanks, we have Toastmaster Abdul Aziz. So please put your hands together to welcome Toastmaster Abdul Aziz to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you all. What, why, and how? An insight by a champion. Vote of thanks goes to the following. District 20 Director, DTM Alifia Lakadawala. And District 20 Director, the Program Quality Director, DTM Khalid Abdullah. And the Club Growth Director, DTM Khalid Jalal. And the Division A Director, DTM MB Reddy, and Area 7 Director, Toastmaster Maya Kumar. Vote of thanks also goes to Awesome and Innovative Minds Toastmaster Club, C2A Toastmaster Club, ICAB Toastmasters Club, and Al Watan Toastmaster Club, President, VPM, and VPE. Vote of thanks to the following speakers: DTM Atiya Mahwash, Toastmaster John Andrews, Toastmaster Verity Price, as well as our timers, Toastmaster Evangeline and Toastmaster Michelle Temporas. A vote of thanks to all of the role players, audience, and yours truly, Toastmaster Abdulaziz Al Sheikh Mubarak. Thank you all.
I think before we close, if we can all unmute ourselves and have a big round of applause for all the speakers, so that we can hear the clap.
Maybe we can stop the recording.